In a bustling city, where the sounds of the street blended into a cacophony of life, a group of young men gathered around a parked truck, their laughter booming and spirits high. Among them stood Chad, a brash and arrogant gang member whose bravado was matched only by his misguided belief in his own superiority. His group had spent the afternoon drinking and insulting passers-by, reveling in their raucous camaraderie when their eyes landed on none other than the legendary boxer, Mike Tyson, walking down the street. Tyson, a man of immense fame, was out enjoying a rare moment of anonymity. Dressed casually, he strolled with an air of confidence and ease, absorbing the sights and sounds of the vibrant city. The sunlight danced on his skin, and he paused at a street vendor, drawn by the enticing aroma of freshly made churros. As he approached, he greeted the vendor with a warm smile, asking how much for one. Chad, emboldened by the courage of alcohol, decided it was the perfect moment to assert his dominance. "Hey, look at that guy," he shouted, pointing at Tyson. "Think he's all that? Just a muscle-bound punk?" Chad's friends roared with laughter, egging him on. Their cheers echoed through the street, blending with the lively background of the city. But Mike Tyson, unfazed by the insults, continued to engage with the churro vendor. "It's on me, champ," the vendor said, beaming with pride at serving the boxing legend. Tyson graciously accepted, the brief moment of kindness rejuvenating him as he savored the sugary treat. However, his tranquility was about to be shattered by the ill-timed bravado of a foolish young man. With renewed energy from his group's laughter, Chad stepped closer, unleashing a volley of insults meant to provoke Tyson. "Hey, tough guy," he shouted. "What's the matter? Your mama didn't teach you any manners?" And with that, silence befell the street as the crowd turned their attention to the unfolding drama, their eyes wide with anticipation. Tyson, in that moment, shifted his focus from the churro to Chad, the transition marked by a fierce intensity. His imposing presence filled the space between them, a calm demeanor giving way to an undeniable strength. "What did you say?" Tyson growled, his voice steady and low, resonating with authority. Chad, misreading Tyson's stoicism as fear, took a step forward, emboldened by his friends' cheers. Yet the laughter surrounding him began to fade, replaced by a palpable tension. The moment had shifted and even Chad could feel it. "You scared?" he sneered, desperation creeping into his bravado with each taunt he threw. Tyson's expression remained unyielding, unbothered by the bravado of the much younger man. "I'll give you one chance to apologize. One chance before you regret it," he said, calm yet carrying the weight of 1,000 untold stories. Chad hesitated, the foundation of his false confidence beginning to crack. Instead of retreating, he leaned into his misguided bravado, challenging Mike's patience. "Or what? You going to hit me? Do your worst, tough guy." The crowd's murmurs amplified, worried glances passed between onlookers, whispering reassurances that they would back Tyson. An elderly woman, clutching her basket of fresh flowers, murmured to a neighboring bystander, "He doesn't know who he's talking to, does he?" The reality of the situation began to dawn on Chad too late. Without warning, Chad shoved a finger into Tyson's chest, attempting to provoke a reaction. To Chad this was a display of power. To Tyson it was just another moment to remain calm. In a flash of movement, Tyson grabbed Chad's wrist with a firm grip, twisting it effortlessly, sending Chad crumbling to his knees with a scream of pain. The crowd erupted, a chorus of disbelief and amusement mixing into a single gasp followed by cheers. "Next time you open your mouth, think about the consequences," Tyson said, his voice low and direct, leaving an imprint of indelible wisdom that hung in the air like static electricity. Chad writhed in pain, embarrassment flooding his features as he struggled to maintain even a shred of composure. In his moment of vulnerability, Chad swung wildly at Tyson, an act of desperation that only served to further highlight his ineptitude. Tyson easily dodged the blow, the tension snapping like a taut wire, and struck Chad's abdomen with precision, leaving him gasping for breath on the ground. The crowd, ignited by the display of power, erupted into laughter and applause, their enjoyment palpable. Chad's friends, now ashamed and intimidated, took several steps back, their allegiance evaporating like morning mist in sunlight. As Chad struggled to regain his footing, Tyson offered only a deep, commanding stare, unyielding and steady. Just as he thought the incident was drawing to a close, a sound drew immediate attention. A bottle hurled from the crowd, aimed recklessly at Tyson. In one fluid motion, Tyson deflected the projectile, snatching Chad's wrist mid-swing and flipping him onto the ground in a display of strength that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. As he pinned Chad down, the sirens of police cars wailed in the distance, approaching like a storm. Chad scrambled back to his feet, his expression a mixture of shock and desperation. "I'm sorry. Please let me go," he pleaded, his bravado shattered, replaced by a fear so profound it shook him to his core. In that moment the officers arrived, expressions stern yet respectful as they approached Tyson. "Mr. Tyson, we're here to help," one officer said. Tyson, his demeanor still impeccable and professional, recounted the events. The officer nodded, aware of Chad's previous offenses. As the officers arrested Chad, the crowd began to cheer once more, celebrating Tyson's strength and moral fortitude in the face of adversity. "This isn't over," Chad shouted defiantly, his voice hoarse, but the words felt empty, devoid of any power in the wake of his public humiliation. Tyson, momentarily distracted by the commotion, turned to a young boy who had been sketching nearby. "You're a good kid, don't let anyone tell you differently," he advised the boy, handing him his churro wrapper prior to walking away, his final gift to the community. And there was the elderly woman once again, stepping forward with trembling hands. Her voice, filled with gratitude, reached Tyson's ears over the cheering crowd. "You're a real hero, Mr. Tyson. Thank you for standing up for us," she said, her words heartfelt and true. With a hint of bashfulness, Tyson responded, "Just doing what anyone should do, ma'am. We all need to stand up for what's right." As he walked away from the scene, the echoes of laughter and cheers faded into the crisp afternoon air. He left an impression on the neighborhood that day, a reminder that dignity and respect are fundamental rights, and sometimes it takes a powerful figure like Mike Tyson to remind the world of that truth. The experiences blended together in the minds of all who witnessed, a tale that would be recounted for years to come, a story of courage, humility, and the enduring strength of standing against wrongdoings. And for Chad? That day he learned a very hard lesson about respect, fear, and the unintended consequences of bravado. He would never forget the encounter that reshaped his understanding of strength and vulnerability forever, as he became a living cautionary tale within the annals of the city. But little did anyone know, this chance encounter was only the beginning of a complex web of events that would intertwine the fates of all involved in ways both unexpected and profound. Days turned into weeks, and the incident began to fade into the background of city life. Chad, now a shadow of his former self, reflected on the encounter with growing awareness. The encounter with Mike Tyson had left him with more than physical wounds. It had awakened a sense of self-awareness he had long suppressed. Tyson, too, found himself pondering the incident, not merely as a defensive act but as a moment of realization. He began to see his actions not just as a boxer but as a figure of influence, a guardian of sorts for the vulnerable and the voiceless. Meanwhile, the elderly woman who had expressed gratitude towards Tyson found herself at the forefront of a community movement. Inspired by Tyson's courage and humility, she rallied her neighbors to stand against the gangs that had long plagued their streets. The movement, though small, was a beacon of hope in a city often overshadowed by fear and intimidation. And then there was the young boy to whom Tyson had given the churro wrapper. He became a symbol of the community's resilience, his sketches telling the story of a city that refused to be defined by its struggles. His art gained recognition, not just for its beauty but for the hope it instilled in all who saw it. As weeks turned into months, Chad found himself at a crossroads. The humiliation of his encounter with Tyson still lingered, but alongside it, a newfound sense of purpose began to emerge. He started to see the error of his ways, the harm his actions had caused, and the fear he had inspired. It was a hard, painful journey, but with each step, he moved further away from the arrogance of his past. One day Chad decided to take a bold step. He approached the community center where the elderly woman and her neighbors had begun their movement against gang violence. With a heart full of remorse and a desire to make amends, he offered his help. It was a gesture met with skepticism at first, but as Chad proved his commitment, working tirelessly alongside them, he found acceptance. Tyson, who had been keeping tabs on the community from afar, was moved by Chad's transformation. He saw in the young man a reflection of his own journey, a path from darkness to light. And so, he decided to visit the community center to meet Chad once more, but this time under different circumstances. The meeting was emotional, filled with unspoken words and deep-seated feelings. Tyson looked at Chad and saw a man who had found his way, who had realized the value of respect and the power of forgiveness. Chad, on the other hand, saw in Tyson not just a boxer, but a mentor, a figure who had unknowingly set him on the path to redemption. As they parted ways, Tyson handed Chad a small piece of paper. On it was a quote, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." It was a quote from his own past, a reminder of the unpredictability of life and the importance of resilience. Chad smiled, knowing that he had been punched not just physically but emotionally, and yet he had found a way to stand up, stronger and wiser. And so, the story of Mike Tyson and Chad became a legend, a tale of how a chance encounter could change the course of lives, how strength and vulnerability could intertwine to create something profound. It was a story of redemption, of forgiveness, and of the unbreakable human spirit. But even as this chapter closed, another was opening, one that would weave the threads of their destinies even tighter, challenging them to confront their deepest fears and to find courage in the face of uncertainty. Years had passed since the incident, and the city had changed. Chad had become a leader in the community, working tirelessly to prevent gang violence and to help those who, like him, had lost their way. Tyson, now retired from boxing, had turned his attention to philanthropy, using his fame to support causes close to his heart. However, a new challenge emerged, one that would test the resolve of both men. A powerful gang, one that had been watching Chad's transformation with growing disdain, decided to make a move. They saw Chad as a traitor, a man who had once been one of them but had turned against his own kind. And they were determined to make him pay. The gang began to exert its influence, using fear and intimidation to undermine Chad's work. They vandalized the community center, threatened the elderly woman and her neighbors, and even went so far as to attack some of the young men who had been inspired by Chad's story. Chad, faced with this new threat, found himself questioning his resolve. Had he been foolish to think that he could change? Was he strong enough to stand against the forces of darkness that sought to destroy all that he had worked for? Tyson, sensing Chad's doubt, reached out. He reminded Chad of his own journey, of the times he had faced adversity and had come out on top. He told Chad that he was not alone, that he had the support of the community, and that together they could overcome any obstacle. And so, Chad found the strength to continue. He rallied the community and together they confronted the gang. It was a battle that would test their courage, their conviction, and their resilience. But in the end, it was not just a battle between good and evil. It was a testament to the human spirit. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, always a chance for redemption, and always a reason to keep fighting. The story of Mike Tyson and Chad became a beacon of hope, a shining example of what could be achieved when individuals came together to stand against injustice. And as the years went by, their legacy lived on, inspiring generations to come. Yet, even as their story became a legend, a new chapter was unfolding, one that would challenge the very foundations of their beliefs and push them to confront the ultimate question. What does it truly mean to be strong? The gang had been defeated, and the community was at peace. Chad had found his place and Tyson had secured his legacy. But as they looked out into the horizon, they knew that there was still one more challenge to face, one that would require them to delve deep into their own souls. It started with a visit from an old friend, a man who had known Tyson since his early days as a boxer. He came with a proposition, one that would change everything. He told Tyson that he had been watching Chad, that he was impressed by his dedication and his strength. And he offered Tyson a chance to train Chad, to teach him the ways of boxing, and to prepare him for the biggest fight of his life. Tyson was taken aback. He had never thought of Chad as a boxer, but as he reflected on the young man's journey, he realized that it was the perfect opportunity. Chad had come a long way, but he still had much to learn. And what better way to teach him than through the art of boxing? Chad, when approached with the idea, was hesitant. He had never been a fan of violence, and the thought of stepping into the ring terrified him. But as he looked into Tyson's eyes, he saw something there that gave him pause. He saw a deep-seated belief in him, a belief that he could overcome any obstacle, no matter how daunting. And so, Chad agreed. He began training with Tyson, learning the intricacies of boxing, and discovering a strength within himself that he never knew existed. It was a journey of self-discovery, one that would push him to his limits and beyond. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Chad transformed. He became stronger, faster, and more agile. He learned to control his emotions, to focus his mind, and to trust in himself. And through it all, Tyson was by his side, guiding him, mentoring him, and pushing him to be his best. The day of the big fight finally arrived. Chad was nervous, but he was ready. He stepped into the ring, his heart pounding in his chest and his spirit soaring. The crowd was on its feet, cheering and chanting his name. And in the corner of the ring, Tyson stood tall, a proud smile on his face. The bell rang and the fight began. Chad danced around the ring, his fists flying, his feet moving with a grace that belied his size. He was a force to be reckoned with, a powerhouse of energy and determination. And when the final bell rang, Chad stood victorious, his arms raised in triumph. He had done it. He had faced his fears and he had come out on top. As he left the ring, Tyson awaited him, a tear in his eye. He was proud of Chad, proud of the man he had become. And in that moment he knew that his legacy was secure. He had passed on his knowledge, his wisdom, and his strength to a new generation. The story of Mike Tyson and Chad came full circle, a tale of redemption, forgiveness, and the unbreakable human spirit. It was a reminder that no matter where we come from or what our past may hold, we all have the power to change, to grow, and to overcome. And as the curtain closed on this chapter of their lives, a new one was opening, one that would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new stories to tell. The legacy of Mike Tyson and Chad would live on, a beacon of hope in a world that often seemed too dark, too cruel, and too unforgiving. But even as the lights faded and the audience dispersed, there was a sense that this was not the end. There was a sense that there was still more to come, more to explore, and more to discover. The journey of Mike Tyson and Chad was far from over, and as they walked off into the sunset, they knew that they would always stand together as friends, as mentors, and as brothers.